think most people that wanted to join are here, and we start anyway with the introduction section, so it might be that some people will join us in the course. So welcome everybody to the webinar about self-service mastery based on the automated warehouse. And this is a joint webinar between Datavault Builder and Astrato. And I have here on the call Piers with me that will introduce himself,
Hello.
tell us a little bit about himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Piers Batchelor, Senior Product Manager at Astrato Analytics. And Astrato is a live query BI tool connecting directly to the cloud data warehouse. And in this instance, we will be connecting to Snowflake today. I have a background in BI consulting, and I'm really excited to show you what we can do together today.
As well. My name is Peter Bellis. I'm working for Datavault Builder, and we are working more in the data engineering part, bringing data sources together, cleaning data, creating history. And that's why we need as well really great reporting tools which represent the data and show the data to the business users. And that's why we do here this joint presentation. About Datavault Builder, we are based in Zurich. We have now more than 180 installations worldwide. We have many different installation partners in different time zones. And the problem that we are addressing is, in fact, that people today have usually a lot of data. It's not the problem to have data, but to bring it together in a reliable way, in an actionable way, and then act on it. And this is not new. When I started in data warehousing around the year 2000, it looked a little bit like this. We had many different tools with working with the database. We did data modeling separately from implementing it. We have ETL tools. We created database tables manually. We had orchestrations and scheduling tools. We had pattern generators for certain repeating patterns like STD type 2 historization. We did deployment with other tools. Data profiling came into it. It was endless. And even if people that started with the project were able to master that at the end, because it slowly was evolving, new people that joined the team were not able to handle that. And as well, if we had some maintenance tasks, we needed to upgrade the component. It was really complex because there were so many interfaces. And this is why we came up with the Datavault Builder solution. The Datavault Builder solution replaces many other different tools to cover the full data integration pipeline from the sources to historization, deployment, and operation. So it covers the full life cycle of a data warehouse. And how does that work? We usually recommend, and that's the way how the Datavault Builder is built, to start with a business model. So we don't start at the technical level. We don't start with looking at some physical tables in your source systems, but we ask the business users, what is your business about? Because they need to know what they can control and what will help them. What is the first process they want to have data on? What are the core business concepts like people and places involved in this process? And this is not new. When you look at approaches like data modeling in Irvine, Power Designer, and other tools, this was around for a long time. But the problem is that if you don't have a real connection or real-time connection to the implementation, the data models will be handed over to the IT. IT goes, implements them, figures out that the data doesn't match exactly the data models, will do the right stuff, implement it correctly, and now there's a disconnect between the data model and the implementation. The business user is not happy because this data model doesn't help him, so invested in something that doesn't help him at all. And this is what we changed. So we start with the data model, but it's the basis for real-time implementation of the code. So while converting this into code and making everything work, we have a lot of stuff around it. This means we have infrastructure automation to set up new environments, especially with Snowflake. We use the zero-copy cloning feature to set up sandboxes in very short time. We have an ITIL-compliant deployment module built in. We have a scheduler in there and a lot of other stuff. This means that you don't need to combine many different tools to get your stuff running. What we don't do, and this is then where our partners come into place, is the reporting bit. But before we go there, just to give you a little bit impression which kind of companies use the Datavault Builder, we have very small companies in number of the data team. eGym is producing this kind of these machines for gyms, but they're collecting billions of data rows. They use Snowflake to integrate their data with the Datavault Builder and serve a lot of reporting applications and tools, and they do it with a data team of 2 people. And they can do that because they are so efficient using the Datavault Builder. At the other end, we have like TV stations like ProSieben Sat.1 in Germany. It's a collection of different TV stations. They have online content, offline content, and they have really huge data teams, and integrating now 2 data warehouses together into one on Snowflake. We're using many different developers. I think they have now up to 40 developers, and they do distributed development. This is exactly what I meant with Snowflake and sandboxing. You can create feature sandboxes on Snowflake by just zero-copy cloning a database, by adding a new Datavault Builder instance, and you're good to go. So we're covering really the full span of from small to big companies. We're partnering with the different database vendors to support the databases as good as possible. We're as well certifying the tool with the Datavault Alliance to be Datavault 2.0 compliant if this is relevant for you. And if you want to see how we compare with other tools, you can download this research by Bark on our webpage. I will not go into details. I like to have some time for the live demonstration, what we did, and what is the basis for Pierre's reporting he will do later. So what we will see today, we have a core where our data is integrated, which is model-driven. And this data model that we will look at today is a sample company created by the German-speaking Datavault user group called Willibald. And they have created a company that has 2 different source systems. The data needs to be integrated. It has data problems on purpose. They build into sample data really classic data problems that need to be cleaned, that you don't want to have in your reporting, like improper hierarchies, like missing values, duplicates, stuff like that. Everything that you should get rid in your data pipeline and in your data integration platform before you hand it over to your self-service users. Now, the second part that we have is staging, so we can connect to different data sources. Then we can connect the data sources by defining the business key, so the identification thingy of your data, to the data model. The Datavault Builder will create all the loads. It will create all the historization. So as well, in the data set that we have a full history of different data changes that the Datavault Builder is capturing. In this report we will look at today, it's only as of now view. This is that we define here in visually creating interface that we want to have only as of now data, but we could access here as well later on the as of then data, so the full history. If some customer names changes, if some orders changes over time, we could everything export here. And our tool is mainly a ELT tool. So everything from staging downstream is running on the database. And today we are using Snowflake because it has many advantages, nearly no administration, the zero-copy cloning I mentioned before. You can get up and running in very, very short time, and you can still process very huge data sets. So the data sources we are using today are on the SQL Server. They could be on any other database or already preloaded on your Snowflake database. And then the handover to the tool is happening here at the database level. So Astrato doesn't connect directly to some Datavault Builder application. It connects natively to Snowflake, but it can be very good, and will read the data from there. So what are the processes that we need to cover to do that? It starts with infrastructure automation to set up the whole tool that we are using. It's about modeling and code generation. We can have a look at data profiling. Then there is testing, deployment, automated deployment, operation, and high availability. And this is always supported by documentation, data lineage, and everything can be automated through REST API. So this is only a short overview what the Datavault Builder does in the background, while it still looks very simple on the front end that we will see. If you want to know more about the different modules, we have a longer webinars that you can book on our webpage to see really what is what, how we go into details, what deployment means, how you can Git flow-based deployments do, how simple deployments, stuff like that. So what makes a Datavault Builder different than other tools? In classical data warehouse automation, you have a modeling tool and you have a repository. This can be like files, databases, and you create your data model against this repository, you press a button, it applies patterns, and it generates your code. And this works in the beginning. But the problem is, over time, people start doing changes here, sometimes for a good reason. So the data model doesn't fit the implementation anymore. People distrust the model, stuff like that, and everything falls apart. And already, just in small bits, while you work here on changes, there's always a moment where your implementation doesn't fit the model, and this creates really heavy problems. So what we did is, in the Datavault Builder, if you add a core business concept to your data model, in the same second, it creates the corresponding table on Snowflake. It adds the metadata as comment on top of the tables, and you can see it in the database and in the model. And if you change it in the database, it will update the data model as well. And the cool thing is now that we export all this metadata as well as views at the database level. So tools like Astrato can as well read some more meta information directly from the database. And this is really metadata of the implementation as it is, not as it should be. So why do people use the Datavault Builder for such tasks? It saves you time. That's the main driver. But as well, in the long run, it reduces your risk. You know, there are so many different implementations running exactly on this architecture, and it lowers your maintenance cost over time. Because all of this, what we deliver, is not a one-time off, but we believe that the physical implementation of your data integration platform changes over time. There are new functions on Snowflake. It's evolving very, very fast. So what we use here the data model for is to regenerate again and again a new physical implementation, like new structures, new index types, stuff like that. If something comes up in Snowflake, we can start using it. So we deliver you all the patterns that you need with the tool. We deliver you the updates of the patterns, and we deliver you updates for your existing physical model. And this is your protection for long-running data warehouse installation. This means that even 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you're safe to use the newest Snowflake features. And we can prove that. We have clients that started back in 2012 with SQL Server and Oracle, and they still can or are able to upgrade to the newest version of the Datavault Builder and use the newest SQL Server and Oracle databases. So let's jump into my live demonstration. And this demonstration will a little bit be as well by showing you what we've done already. And I will explain you in a second why. So let's jump over there. So what was the starting point of our demo data that we're using here? The German-speaking Datavault user group decided they want to make Datavault tools comparable. So they created a sample data set on GitHub. And they asked different vendors to show how to implement this kind of data models with their tool. And it's not just data. It's a full company that is trading seeds. They have two different source systems. One is their web shop. One is a shop where they can go on the road and sell directly to some gardening communities. And they have created a full data model of this stuff. They have created sample data sets for 3 different deliveries. They have created data problems on purpose, and there are many different use cases. And as this takes a little bit longer, we have created a video on YouTube showing you exactly how this implementation of 2 different source systems with hierarchies, with customer data, with order data, with credit card processing data works. And if you want to see the full video, it's about 2 hours 45, explaining you every step by step. I show you now the result and show what it means if you want to change something on that. So the first bit is the modeling bit. And herein, we see a conceptual and logical data model. And this is what we created based on the business requirements of this company. So we have seen they have orders, they have order lines, they have deliveries, but there can be only one delivery for an order line, so there are no partial deliveries. That's really here what we express in the data model. Then they have customers, and customers belong to some partner associations, different addresses, the product, and the product is organized in a product category, which is a hierarchical construct. So product category can be grouped in categories again and stuff like that. And then they have some special calculations because they're delivering live plants and seeds. They need to know if everything is on time or not. And that's why they have specially functionality data, which compares the wish wished for date and the delivery date that was effective happening. So this is the first point. And this blue boxes represents concepts. Yes, at the physical level in the Datavault world, they will become hubs. We have relations. They will become links. And we have the small dots, which are the attributes of these objects. And we see that we have two colored boxes, circles here, and this is because they belong to different source systems. One source system is the roadshow system where they sell on the street, and one is the web shop system in blue, and we can select now here the different source systems, see which elements are loaded by which source system, and in already this small use case, which is pretty realistic, in about 3 hours, we integrated already 4 different source systems into this data model. So what's happening now? Let's assume we want to extend that, and we say, okay, for an order that could be an invoice, and this is something that we do first at the business level. So we would define what the invoice is, how the cardinality is, how the granularity is of this stuff. And just by defining in a workshop with the business, we can say that one order can have 1 or more invoices. So let's link that together. Define the expected cardinality. And while I'm adding this to my data model, already in the background, in the Snowflake database, this object started to exist. It's not yet exposed. I haven't created any interface. I haven't created any data loads for it, but it already exists. We can query this table in the tool and see that it was already created. And this is what we mean by real-time implementations. The next step that I could go is to go into my staging module. And in here, I have the different sources, the different source tables, and here I can connect to many different connections that we have where the data is coming from. And I have created here already a new source system for mail orders. That could be like a next source system that we add, and we can directly select from our source that we want to get like the orders from mail orders. It will read all the metadata. I could rename stuff. I could define delta loading and many other stuff that I will not highlight now. And what happens again is immediately it will create a target table. It will create an ETL flow to add this staging table, and it will do everything around it. So it documented it already in data lineage. It added the section in documentation, and in the operations module, it already added here a new source system that, based on the modeling that we do, will contain everything necessary for the system. Yes, right now it's only a staging table, but later on it might be more. So the next thing is that we need to do is connect now the data that we staged with our data model. And this is in fact done just by adding here a new load. And we need to see on which level this data is that we received. And we have here an order ID. It's a German data set right now. It will be as well published later on in English. And we can now test if the order ID in my source data is already unique or not. And now the tool, because it works in real time with the database, can answer me already, no, I got it wrong. There are in fact certain order numbers repeated several times. So I can already look at one of these orders and let's check what the problem is. And what we see here is that in the same order, there might be different products. And we went back to the business user and they told us, yes, don't worry, every product can be only once in the order. If a customer orders more of the same product, it will be on the same order line. So it should be safe to use the product ID here as a subpartition key. And this is the kind of talks that you do with your business users to model what their business is about. And just by defining the business key, we have now connected the data model with your staging area. And we have a production-ready load, including historization and everything, updating your master job into your core system. This means that we have now one more source for our order lines. And if I would create as well a new interface for it, Piers doesn't need to update his report. We will just join in the new data source by harmonizing it here in the next module into the data. He will receive new data without needing to change the logic or visuals in the report tool. So the next step that we do here is then create some interfaces, and that's what I done already before. So we created interfaces for order, for the order line, for customer. And this is in fact then the layer where the reporting tools can connect to. Yes, we can additionally add some business rules, but let's skip that complexity for the moment. And adding here a new interface is really a drag and drop thing. So let's assume that we want to add a new interface for the deliveries that was missing so far. So we can select from which source system we want to output it, if we want to join the data from all the systems. And we can select here the temporality. This means, do we want to just have the latest information about a delivery, or do we want to have the full history with valid from, valid to, as you know it from Kimball style? I don't need to write any code because the tool is abstracting all these requirements that we have to the data and is creating everything automatically in the background. So let's select now here some attributes like the delivery date. And because this is German, I would be able here to rename this to English. I could go here from the delivery here, like to the delivery service. And because this is model-based, we can now join data without needing to think about what this data is about, only, or not how it is joined, but only what we need. And this would be like the delivery service name. Let's store that, and this is created as a virtual view on Snowflake. In most cases, that's performant enough. So right now, after defining this, after this is stored to the database level, we can query the data right away and see how the output looks like. And what we see here is we have the delivery date, and the delivery service. One problem is that we have no relation to the order line. So that's what I could take from here, take the business key, store it again. And this is the kind of virtual working, of agile working that we do here, that after seeing the data, we can correct it. We can hand it over very quickly to our consumers, and they can see what they do with it. So the last step that I would do for this, I would go here for the delivery. Oh, I have already quite a lot of stuff here. So let's go here for the delivery and let's publish that. And from now on, the reporting tool can access this data right away. And this would be now like the handover point where I say, okay, what have we done so far? We have created some new source system. If you look at it, it's the mail orders. We can start right away loading it from here. I could schedule it here. Data lineage was updated overall for the whole system. So we see here all the data flows. We can filter it down. We can go into documentation, generate the documentation, including our mail order system. And we're ready for deployment. Oh, yeah, yes, it's a new system, so that was correct. And now we could go into deployment and either use a Git flow-based deployment where I would now export my whole changes into a Git repository, or into smaller companies or less mature data warehousing projects. You could here compare directly to running installations of the Datavault Builder and deploy directly from your development to test machine, from test to production, and you're done. So this was a little bit an insight of how we create the data. And if you want to see this full video, it's on our webpage in the Datavault blog section. And here you will find a Willibald video showing you really from scratch with detailed explanation how we created the full model. So let's hand over to Piers.
Thank you very much. I'll just start sharing my screen.
Just one small thing. If you have any questions, there is a question and answer button in your Zoom session, and just don't hesitate to type in questions there, and we can pick it up as soon as we're ready for them.
Okay, fantastic. I'll just open the Q&A and chat as well, just so it's next to me. Let me know if I do miss any of those. So thank you, Peter. I've taken what you have built for us and ingested those views, and we're able to visualize the data already without having to make any changes to the underlying tables. And I'm able to make selections, and it's all live directly from Snowflake. So just like you were saying, zero copy for the views, this is zero copy BI. We're not moving any data whatsoever. I'm even able to pick my own dimensions and measures for a true self-service experience where I can have my data, my own data, in the shape that I want it to be, and also change visualization when I see fit. I'll open that in preview mode. We're in the workbook editor just then. So click product name, quantity sold, product count, and that's feeding directly from the view that's been generated. There we go. I can change that to a bar chart as well. So full self-service, all under the hand, quickly generated from the data. Now, the process that we go through to get to that visual, let's open this data connection, and I'll show you exactly how I've done that from the beginning. So we've brought in just the tables that we need. So Peter was working on the delivery table we saw there. You can see the changes that he's made. And it looks like there's an extra field, a date field in the order table. So I can bring that in as well. And the data view that I had created before, so this is our semantic layer in the product. The joins had been previously suggested. All of these were able to be joined in a single click. I'm able to view the join quality here as well. So that will take some time to query and validate the correct join in Snowflake. It's querying against the views. I wonder what the fastest view to query is. Here we go. So we can see that there's a few orphans in this table. So it's not the perfect join. That's most likely down to the integrity of the data itself. We can preview that here. We can explore the data just like we were doing in the end UI. And let's bring in, let's say, first name, last name of customer. And this is a good example here. I'll get some feedback on how, if I've selected the right tables. Since we're pushing down everything to Snowflake, all of the computers there, so if we need it to be faster, we can change the warehouse size, things like that. And we can view the query here as well. So we can see that I've got two joins and that the query profile insights have returned a red alert for union. All of this is from Snowflake, estimated credits, number of rows scanned. So we have full transparency of what's happening behind the scenes on these views. So I'm happy with my data model here, my data view, and I'm ready to go to the next stage. So I'm going to create a workbook. I'll keep it nice and simple. I don't need to pick a layout. I'm going to start from scratch because I'll be adding our custom report and a simple bar chart. But just so everyone can see this a little bit better, I'm going to turn off the grid here to disable snapping. So adding in a bar chart, let's look at, this is now testing my German skills with the German data set. So I'm just hopping over to the other screen to get the fields. And some of these have been renamed already. So we can bring in product category name, and maybe we'll look at number of products. So just a full record count rather than count distinct. Let's show, I'll collapse these. You can see the whole properties panel. I'm going to show the top 20, maybe the top 10 even. And a few more styling tricks. We'll change the sorting, add some data labels, and add a little gradient to it. And again, as you should expect from anywhere in the product, we do have the SQL query here. So we're querying just from one view at the moment, just from the product view. And that's how quick it is to create a visualization and style it. I'm all done there. So I'll leave that over here. And now for the true self-service, which you saw before. In our self-service section, we do have custom report. And can add in my product category name. I have to look at the exact fields I added earlier. Again, pointing back to my poor proficiency in German. I speak English and SQL. So bear with me. So quantity sold. And in German, that is, here we go. We'll bring in a few more product category fields. And product count. We'll count the name. So that's now going across a couple of tables. Now, once I publish this, I'm able to give access to all of my end users. And now end to end, that is full self-service all the way from automating it through the data warehouse to the end user who's analyzing the data from these visuals. Now, if we take that to the next level and go a little bit beyond this data set that we have here, let's say we wanted to write back to Snowflake, or we wanted to utilize more of Snowflake's unique features. I can write back here, for example. I'm picking a single row. Let's say I wanted to, I've got my orders, but maybe there's some bugs with the ordering software, and there's a validation glitch here. I'm selecting this item. Now I'm able to change the data myself, elevating what I can do with the data, taking self-service to the next level. So I want to change the priority of this bug. I want to say I've escalated it. We'll add a comment in here. My name and my picture will appear right at the top of this table. So a nice audit log. And here we are at the top of the table, high priority validation glitch. So now end to end, I'm managing all of my data within one application, being able to make decisions. And what's a better way to make decisions is to have them supported by data science. Now I want to forecast my sales. So let's say I'm going further and going beyond my German data set and I'm going international. So I'm now going to US data. I go over to my forecasting application and I'm forecasting by store number the inventory needed. So I've got a line per state, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. I've got a 4-week forecast there. You can see the dips in there, 4 weeks forecasted. Now, this is writing back, and a snowpark UDF in Snowflake has been updated. This is the parameter that's being fed to it 10 weeks. I can easily change that to 13 weeks, whatever number I see fit, without having to call a data scientist or raise a ticket. Everything throughout the product then becomes self-service, whether it's writing back, setting targets, doing data science, or simply choosing which visualization I want to represent my data in. And of course, you're always able to see the query behind it. So if you're a data analyst, a data engineer, a data scientist, you've always got that reference going back to the data warehouse with a single source of the truth. So that's summing up our self-service capabilities across both products and opening up for questions.
So one question we have is, are you supporting only Snowflake? Do you want to answer that first, Piers?
Oh, yes. So let's go back here and we'll add a data connection. And you'll see all of our supported data connections here. Even Google Sheets, although I would say because it's not SQL based, it has a lot less features. Snowflake by far has the most number of features. I am biased. I'm a Snowflake data superhero. We're also supporting BigQuery, Databricks, Postgres, Redshift, etc.
Yeah, on our side, it's Snowflake, Postgres, and BigQuery is in development right now. Additionally, we support SQL Server in all its variants, on-prem and in the cloud, Azure Synapse, Oracle, and Exasol.
Synapse will be our next connector.
Yep. Good.
Cool.
Okay. Now, question: how do you position this solution? I think this is more for you against like competitors like Power BI and Tableau.
Interesting question. So I would say they are traditional. They are in memory. You're taking the data out of the Snowflake, out of the data warehouse. Let's say Snowflake as an example. If you're taking data out of Snowflake, you lose access to all of those features. Saying goodbye to Snowpark, goodbye to time travel, goodbye to all of those performance performance settings that you can leverage, changing the warehouse. You're then limited and almost trapped with the feature set that you get from Tableau and Power BI. If Snowflake added a feature tomorrow, I would have access to it in Astrato. Example, in public preview, they have external access for Snowpark. I can use the data warehouse to contact external services to enrich my existing data. Let's say I wanted to enrich a few records and add some context to those, or even connecting to large language models. I'm able to do that through Snowflake as soon as they release it without any delay. And that's one of the key benefits of having live query. On top of that, live query enables you to do a really 100% true, accurate write back. If you're doing write back in Tableau and Power BI, you're most likely, well, you have to depend on a third-party extension and add-on. These need to be maintained and supported, and they usually there's a slight lag in the versions that they support. If you're doing it live, native in a single tool, you don't have the analytics or write back lag. You don't need to worry about who's updated it. If you, Peter, have updated a record and I've updated it, and then there's a refresh, it's all live. And I would say we are more affordable than Tableau, Power BI if you look at the total cost of ownership, even factoring in the compute of the cloud data warehouse.
I think what I see is as well the strong focus on self-service BI. I mean, you work with Francesco Pupini that create the unified star model that is really concentrating on as well bringing the data, and we will show that as well with him later in a webinar, hopefully in a few weeks, how you can use the Datavault Builder to automate this kind of data models that you really completely can then do self-service in a tool like Astrato without any data engineer being needed. And I mean, it's not that no data engineers are needed, but not at the time that people are querying the data, that they are not blocked. They don't need to raise tickets to change the data structures, but right away in the front end tool, in the reporting tool, they can create the reports they need and get the answers that they need. And I think that that will be a really cool thing to see then live.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about giving people access to the data and giving them the freedom to look at it without the fear that they'll break something, or without others fearing that something can then be broken by them. Because having that read-only access, you don't need to give everybody write back or access to ML models, things like that. People do need that trust and freedom to look at data and know that what they're picking in front of them is best fit for them, can be used by them, and is accurate.
Last question I think that we have here is, how does licensing work? So let's assume I want to use the Datavault Builder and I want to use Astrato as a reporting tool. How does this work? I will answer it from our side. It's very short. It's depending on the size of your data or your database. And the second thing is of number of developers. If we have these two numbers, we can give you offer. Read-only users don't pay anything. People querying the data warehouse don't pay anything. Operations users don't pay anything. You can set up as many test development and sandbox machines, because we strongly believe in ITIL compliant development. And so you have one price that you know in advance for managing your data integration, data warehouse platform for the full year. How does it look on your side, Piers?
So we are priced depending on the number of users. So similar that you would have to Tableau and Power BI. Although I would say for each tier that Tableau and Power BI have, like, we are certainly more affordable. Total cost of ownership, there is a number in my mind. I won't share it, but we can, generally speaking, guarantee that we are cheaper by a certain percentage. So I'd be happy to discuss it with anyone who is interested. We do have a free trial for 30 days, no credit card required. And we don't just license per user, because we have a lot of customers that are interested in embedded analytics, so OEM. We also have consumption pricing. So pay for what you use, much like Snowflake do. So we will say, if you're having any like views, we can say 100,000 minutes for a certain price, for example. We can even do hybrid licensing.
Cool.
I would say we're most
well,
similar to Power BI.
Yeah. So as well, from our side, if you want to test the software, you usually work with one of our implementation partners. We give you for a 1 week POC the license for free. They will show you within this 1 week, charging for their consulting work usually. Then what you can do in 1 week, like installing the software, loading one process, 3-4 dimensions around it, create your first reports. So really at the end of 1 week, you get really tangible output and you see how your development process runs. You can set up, even if you're working with Snowflake, a second environment within this 1 week, start deploying stuff. So you really see the full deployment, development process and operations process, and you get the feeling how it will look like when you buy the software later.
We do something similar as well. We're working with our trialing customers, giving them 2 weeks POC where we're hands-on with them. So I really like that we're mirroring the same way of enabling customers.
Yeah. So Piers, it was a pleasure. I thank you a lot. Thank you
very much for having me.
showing all the stuff that can be done in such a short time, and looking forward to seeing you again at other occasions. Thank you a lot. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.